Ukraine as the shield of Europe. President Volodymyr Zelensky warns, any territorial concessions to Russia will not stop the war, but will only turn the captured regions into a launching pad for new attacks. The Kremlin has already practiced this strategy when Crimea became a springboard for pressure on the south and part of the east for the complete occupation of the region.
If tomorrow we somehow withdraw from Donbas, which will not happen, we will open up unprotected territory to Putin right next to the city of Kharkiv with its 1.5 million residents. He would also seize the industrial center of Dnipro. This would open up new opportunities for him.
Off-screen male voice. The president of Ukraine urges Europeans to think on a larger scale. After all, if the Kremlin had managed to carry out its original plan to seize all of Ukraine, Moscow would have used it not only against Kiev, but also against the West itself.
If Putin had managed to capture our entire country, he would have used it as a staging ground. Whether he succeeds or not will depend on how strong Europe is. If Europe is strong, he will probably do nothing. But if it is weak, it will suffer from Russia's actions.
Male voiceover. Zelensky also reminds us about geography. It's less than 3,000 kilometers from Moscow to Paris, and the range of Russian missiles already reaches 2,500 kilometers today. Ukraine is also developing long-range weapons with a range of up to 3,000 kilometers, and the arms race is only accelerating.
With such technological development, there can no longer be any distant wars. Believe me, in 2 years, the Russians will have many missiles, and so will we, with a range of 5,000 kilometers. The sea won't protect anyone, the ocean won't protect anyone. In this respect, the weapons Russia is using today are not so different from nuclear delivery systems.
Male voiceover. That is why the fate of Ukraine is not a local war, but a matter for all of Europe. If Kiev holds out, the eastern border of Europe will remain the Donbas. If not, the front line will run through Poland or Germany, just as the Berlin Wall once divided the continent into two worlds. Against the backdrop of these warnings, Zelensky also allows for a Korean scenario for Ukraine, without a formal peace treaty, but with a chance for prosperity and development. The only question is where exactly Europe is willing to draw its eastern border, in Donetsk or in Berlin. Meanwhile, new statements are being made across the ocean. US President Donald Trump, in an interview with VSN, admits Kyiv and Moscow are not yet ready for a peace agreement. But he immediately adds a cryptic phrase, saying that something is going to happen soon, and also announces his upcoming conversation with the Russian dictator in the next few days.
I think we will sort everything out. Honestly, I thought that dealing with Russia would be easier than with some of the other conflicts I have resolved. But it seems this has turned out to be a bit more complicated than some of them.
A male voiceover. For the American leader, who not long ago called the war one of the easiest conflicts to resolve, these words sound like an admission that the Russian-Ukrainian war has turned out to be much more complicated than he expected.
It's clear that Trump will soon be pushing Putin for, I think, a trilateral meeting after all. And after all, Putin is doing everything to show that he supposedly isn't interested in direct talks with the Ukrainian president Zelensky. And, well, I think that a trilateral meeting is actually more realistic. Although, again, holding such a meeting in the short term is, in my opinion, almost science fiction. Plus, judging by statements from Friedrich Merz, other European leaders, or Turkish President Erdogan, it's quite clear that right now it's Putin who is sabotaging the upcoming meeting. But the fact that he is sabotaging it now does not mean that Putin won't be forced to change his position in the near future.
Off-screen male voice. But while the Russian dictator continues to spill blood on Ukrainian soil, European leaders are concerned about a possible new Russian offensive. Bloomberg reports that behind closed doors at the Security Council meeting, German and French officials discussed the buildup of Russian troops near Pokrovsk.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Volodymyr Zelensky himself recently stated that about 100,000 soldiers are concentrated in this direction. The capture of Pokrovsk would open the way to Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, key cities for controlling the entire Donetsk region.
I don't understand what new offensive in the east the Western media are writing about, because there is only one offensive and it has been steadily ongoing for over a year now, with varying phases of Russian activity. These phases depend on losses and reserves.
Putin continues to pursue a strategy of dragging out the negotiation process. All the significant points and crucial statements he meticulously voiced directly at the extensive press conference held in China should have, in some substantial and impactful way, effectively cooled the fervent enthusiasm of the broad coalition of those nations and entities that were particularly eager to diligently formulate a comprehensive and definitive final proposal concerning the critical security guarantees for Ukraine, thereby potentially altering the diplomatic landscape. Nevertheless, what we are currently seeing right now in the vibrant city of Paris, what we are observing is that absolutely no one is even remotely considering slowing down the ongoing process of this very significant crystallization. Security guarantees for our state also indicate that, in principle, we are making small but still real steps along the diplomatic track.
Today, the choice is not only before Ukraine, but before the entire West as well. The decisions that will be made at future negotiations with Moscow will determine not only the fate of Ukraine, but also the security of all of Europe. Will peace be restored on Ukrainian soil, or will the war spread further? This is a question to which no one has an answer yet.
NATO is Russia's new neighbor. On September 1st, the regional headquarters of the alliance's land forces officially began operations in the Finnish city of Mikkeli, according to Finland's land forces. Mikkeli is located just 140 kilometers from the Russian border and a little over 300 kilometers from St. Petersburg.
This decision is a clear political signal to the Russian Federation that Finland is a full-fledged member of NATO. We can consider this a counter-move by the NATO bloc in response to the construction of new military bases near the Finnish border. This includes Kandalaksha, Petrozavodsk, and a number of other settlements within the Russian Federation.
At the initial stage, the headquarters plans to accommodate about a dozen people. In the future, they plan to increase the staff fivefold.
NATO is making it clear to the Russian Federation what possible scenarios could unfold in the event of escalating tensions directly on the borders with the NATO bloc. Let me remind you, Finland joined the NATO bloc in 2023, and after that, the total length of NATO's border with the Russian Federation doubled and now amounts to 2,600 kilometers.
The headquarters will manage the alliance's ground forces in the northern region, coordinate the actions of national armies, as well as jointly plan exercises and operations. The new structure will report to NATO's Norfolk Command in the United States, which is responsible for the Atlantic and the Arctic.
Recently, the Russian Federation has been undertaking a series of provocative actions on the borders with the NATO bloc. This concerns not only land borders, but also accordingly maritime borders. This includes the incursion of a Russian vessel into Estonia's territorial waters. This includes the statement by the Russian Ministry of Defense regarding claims to the Swedish island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea. And these are also the recent actions involving the jamming of GPS signals, specifically affecting Ursula von der Leyen's aircraft.
Finland's Minister of Defense Antti Häkkänen has approved the deployment for August 2025. Last fall, Häkkänen emphasized that the establishment of the headquarters in Mikkeli is a signal to Moscow. Finland is a full-fledged member of NATO. The alliance plays a key role in ensuring its defense.
NATO has taken advantage of the current situation in the post-Soviet space. Accordingly, no one asked the Russian Federation for permission regarding Finland and Sweden's accession. Essentially, the point was that Finland's accession to NATO marked the end of 75 years of neutrality.
The main reason for Finland abandoning its long-standing neutrality and joining NATO is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Threatening to prohibit the expansion of the military alliance, the Kremlin dictator launched a war in Ukraine, where for the fourth year he has been killing people and destroying their homes. Meanwhile, right under his nose, or more precisely, right up to Russia's border, NATO quietly crept up on Putin, expanding its scale and spheres of influence.